My next guest in the past few years has reached great heights, really. He is very well respected among performers. He has an album. He writes and performs practically all of his own material. And his album that's Kenny Rankin's album. It's also doing well, but that's not the one I wanted. Called, well, this is not the one I wanted, is it? Is this AM and FM? Yeah. Well, it's doing well, right? It's doing sensational, as a matter of fact. I know whether it's got a gold record, but it's doing real good. In a silver record or something, isn't it? Let's get him out here and let's find out. Would you welcome George Carlin?
Been smoking the set again, eh, John?
That's right. Right on. Can't give it up, George.
Thank you, though, for that. Showing the album on a show like this is, all...
Does that really help?
Pardon me?
Really help when you hold up the album and do that?
Yeah, this show, in fact, is known more so than any of the others that there have been and have gone away to.
I think it's because of the way I hold the album.
Could be.
Some of the fellows say, here it is, and other guys get to do this, but I hold an album nicely.
You do.
And I think that probably has more to do with anything else. The way I hold it.
The
album's, of course,
shining
good.
directly on it is often good, too, so that at home they're like that.
That's right. You want to get the key light, so they...
But
well,
anyway, thank you for that.
Now, George, you must promise me something. You won't get me in any trouble on the show tonight. Because I've been reading about your problems in Milwaukee, and they busted you there, or tried to bust you, or there's a court case pending.
Right.
Because, and I don't want to jeopardize the case, so I have to be careful the words I use, I guess.
Right.
You allegedly,
yes.
Let me put it that way, used some words in your act which brought about a bust, saying that you were, what was the technical language in the...
Oh, it was disorderly conduct - profanity, as opposed, I guess, to disorderly conduct drunk, disorderly conduct something else. The state didn't want to have anything to do with it. Mm-hmm. They didn't want to prosecute it because you're covered by the First Amendment in freedom of speech. The city did, however, follow. There was one policeman at this summer fest. There were about anywhere from 35 to 55,000 people present. It's a piece of material, quote, unquote, that I've done everywhere.
No, I'm familiar with it. I know the material.
At good places, at bad places, at colleges, at religious colleges. And it's about the 7 words you can't say on television,
right.
Which list I have amended since then. Folks have been reminding me of others. And,
their own little words that they have.
It's up to about 11 now. But the point is, it's a satirical look at language taboos.
Right.
And I use the words, of course.
Basically, the words are having to do with various, usually terms, euphemistic terms for sexual intercourse or certain objects or parts of the body, and et cetera. That's right. Basically what it is, which that's everybody right. uses more or less. I shouldn't say everybody, then I'll probably get letters saying, we never use that language. Or we're endorsing it.
I told the policeman that night, our fighting men have used these words for years and years.
And when they stop using them, they ain't fighting. You mentioned now the First Amendment. I don't mean to jump in on you about, which gives you the right to... the First Amendment, though, does not give you the right to yell fire in a crowded theater.
Which I did not.
Yeah, but I'm saying, when you say I'm not saying that you did. Right, I'm only saying that when people say freedom, there are certain...
You can't slander anyone and you can't libel anyone. And if I were to use those words at someone in the audience to arouse them, that would be another story. But there have been, I'm told, reversals by the Supreme Court recently on convictions where people were merely running in the streets yelling these words or wearing a shirt with the word on it in a courtroom. Now, certainly if those things were reversed, a performer should be protected by the First Amendment if he's in the pursuit of art or satire, whatever it is. And I expect to be upheld. I hope so.
What do you think it is that gets people so absolutely maniacal, and that's almost the word in certain fringes, when they hear these words, which have been around long before we were around? But what do you think it is? Do you think it's a puritanical upbringing? Do you think it's...
It's habit, I think. We've all agreed these will be the ones that are no good. You bunch over there, 400,000 words in the language, and there's about 9 or 10 that are no good. Over there, we'll say them sometimes. Certain guys can say them to each other, and certain conditions. No just yelling them out. No saying them on the panel. They're just...
Are there places where you wouldn't use those words?
Absolutely.
Personally?
Because a word can be offensive in the context of a sentence or in the context of your mood. If you're a little mad and you don't want to really hurt or scare, you might choose milder words and show your madness with your face. Mm-hmm. If you're just kidding around and your face is relaxed and so forth, you can say a word that won't have the same emotional impact, same word.
Yeah, that's true. They've done surveys on it. It's amazing what gets people uptight. Certain words bother certain people. In other words, they don't think. Those people say, well, that doesn't bother me. But it's always the people who make the case saying they're out to protect somebody else's morals, never their own.
Right.
They seem to be all right, at least the people who criticize that and say, well, I'm not worried for myself, but it's these other poor slobs.
But I'm going to make sure I see the movie to make sure it's
That's
okay
right,
for
that
them
it's
to
a
see.
terrible picture. We can follow up a little bit on that.
Sure.
We'll be right back after this message. George, do you think the time will ever come where you can walk out on a show like this show and do the routine that you do now, privately in clubs? Strangely enough, the same people who would come here, come to Las Vegas, or they would go to see a concert performance, and I've seen them sit through material, and they laugh, and they have a good time, and they don't seem to be offended. Why is it? What is there about this medium that offends? That they have no control? I mean, they do. They can turn it off.
Well, it's like a member of your family, the television set, really. It's in the home. Almost anyone can pass by and hear it. And as long as commercial television is paid for by private interests and regulated by the government, there'll be a problem with that kind of language freedom. Although, even at the edges, there's a little opening up now with milder words, with milder attitudes, with subject matter. It's slowly expanding as the society relaxes a little bit with things. And I just don't think it can ever come to that point until we eliminate the fear of words altogether. You know?
Right. What would you like to go out and address the
Try
people
some
on
other
tonight?
words.
Would you like
I'll
to?
try to avoid the big seven.
Whatever. The big seven.
It's always nice to come over here and perform my unnatural act. That is my job, performing an unnatural act before a whole bunch of people. It's no fun without people watching. This is an unusual job. This is my job. Welcome to my job. My job. Hi. My job involves words. We were talking about words mostly. I really love them and became fond of them very early in life. They fool you. They're fun. One of my favorite words, as I've mentioned to you before, is you hear it in commercials, semi-boneless ham. There are certain words I can't understand. How can something be semi-boneless? It either has a bone or it doesn't, and it's boneless. And then there's boned chicken. It's boned? Yes, there are no bones in it. What do you mean? It's boned? If you would bone something, no, that's not right. Forward lateral. Football has a forward lateral. Explain that to me, if you will. A partially blocked kick. Why does back come before forth? Shouldn't it be forth and back? Why back and forth? Stop and go. Certainly you must go before you stop. If you change your plans and you alter your plans, you've done the same thing. But if you change your pants and you alter your pants, you've done two different things. How can that be? Why is there no word called near-fetched? There are some things for which there are no words. When you're walking on a busy street and you walk almost into someone and you both decide to correct 3 times in a row the wrong way and you do this thing with each other, there's no name for that. If you tell your friend you did that, I just met a guy and we went like this, you know. No name for that. There's no name for those 2 little lines on the upper lip that come down from your nose. Really, they don't. What are they? I don't say, gee, I hurt my line. And the value of words, the emotional value that changes as you grow up. Remember when you were a kid, the word trouble, what it meant? Oh, I'm in trouble. Trouble. You're in trouble. You're in trouble. And right after that would come, remember the word please when you really meant it? Not please pass the salt, but please. Oh, please, please. No, please. No, please, please. Oh, please, please. I mean, oh, please, please. Please, man. Please, man. Please, man. Please, man. Maybe that's where that came from. I love the coincidence of words, too. And just one more chance. Just give me one more chance. Words you used, words they used to you when you were a kid that you never hear when you grow up. Remember, like, get down off there, you'll break your neck. No one ever says you'll break your neck. No one ever broke their neck then when you were a kid. You never heard of that kid broke his leg, broke his arm, and break your neck. Put down that stick, you'll put somebody's eye out with that. Never heard of a guy who had an eye put out with a stick. You'll catch pneumonia. Don't pick at it. In or out, in or out. Come on. Yeah. So anyway, then you have, oh, by the way, one thing, if you're a fan of your childhood, when you go back to the house where you grew up, after you've walked around a little in the house as an adult, walk around at the height you used to walk around when you were a kid. And all of those sense memories will come back to you that you wouldn't have seen. You'd look at the windowsill and, oh, yeah. Oh. And the paint was cracked, and this was a river, right? Oh, yeah. It's really great fun. Names are another kind of word. I've often mentioned to you that when I'm in a bus depot or a train station, I can never eat in the dining room because it's usually called terminal diner or terminal lunch. You know? The name George is a hard name to grow up with. Everyone's always singing that dumb song to you. Georgie Porgy. No other guy's name, no other person's name had a dumb song all the time. 37 times a day. Georgie Porgy pudding pie kissed the girls and made them cry. What do you mean, made them cry? Why would they cry, man? When the boys come out to play, Georgie Porgy ran away. Oh, wow, man. George, let George do it. All those dopes in the commercials, ring around, George. Bad name, you have to grow away from it. Melvin, I feel sorry for Melvins and Irvings. People make fun of those names. Percy Melvin Irving. As our outgoing Secretary of Defense, Melvin Laird, it scared me during the Amchitka H-bomb countdown, which they were covering on the radio out here. With the big A, the big blast coming up about 2 hours and 15 minutes from now, the big A, the big H-bomb. They kept mentioning Melvin Laird could call off the test, and I thought, the guy in charge of all the H-bombs, his name is Melvin, man. Hope he's not mad at us, you know? Call me, Melvin. The name that was most used in history has to have been Jesus' name, Jesus Christ. It wasn't really a first and last name situation. We treat it that way, Jesus Christ. It sounds like that, Harry Anderson, Bill Willman, Jesus Christ. It just seems that way. And I often wonder if he had had a different last name, another Jewish name, Bloom. If he had been Jesus Bloom, how different things would have been. First of all, Christians would have been bloomers. Really. And people wouldn't have taken them seriously. You know, one of the bloomers are here. Get the bloomers out of here. You'd have Texas Bloomer University and Young Men's Bloomer Association. And in August, people would say, Bloom, it's hot. One tiny thing. I'm just about out of words now for the moment. I have only 7 left. You know them. I can't say them, but you all know what they are, and at home you can think about them.
Funny stuff.
Thank you. Thank you.
That's funny stuff. Every time you work, it gets my mind clicking, too. That's why I like it when you're around. It stimulates.
Thank
when
you.
you're talking about those terms, you know, that they use, you know. Full court. Does that bother you?
Which one?
Full court.
Full quart. Yeah, right.
What is it? You go to a grocery store, it's a full quart.
Why?
Like, why not?
Well,
A huge quarter pound. How can a quarter pound be huge? You know, but they use those terms, a full quart.
you got, like, I just try to save them, Johnny.
Yeah.
No,
That's
I'd like
crazy.
to do a whole book on them if I could just collect them my whole life. They jump out of the newspaper at you, really.
Yeah, that's crazy. Names are interesting. We have an edict came down, believe it or not, from upstairs. But we are not to use the word name Bruce in connection with anything, because if we say a guy has a tendency that he, well, let us say he glides a little bit, would say, Bruce. Now, all of a sudden, do you believe that? I mean, I know a lot of guys who skip who are not named Bruce. More than I do, you know, I don't understand that at all. Why that should become
Sure, they got
a connotation for it.
they got truck drivers and longshoremen and, you know, guys, hey, let's go unload the truck.
Yeah.
First of all, there's nothing wrong with, if that is the way you live anyway, it's probably nothing wrong with
Yeah,
that.
but there's nothing ever intended in that, you see, when we did that. It was a strange. but
Really?
Oh, yeah, but...
Oh, but that is a standard comedian's name to use.
Is it
wouldn't
really?
you say? As when you do that line? I mean, it just seems to me like I've heard that as the standard name that is used
But
for...
you'll wonder why it started.
Because the C, you can make the sibilant S. Bruce. That's the reason. That's got to be the reason.
How about Sydney?
Well,
I mean, now, you think? It's the
get
same.
another edict on
I
Sydney.
probably will, too. Pretty soon Arnold will be the only thing we can use. And if we started that, people would say, oh, we know what you're doing. Arnold really means Bruce. That's the thinking upstairs.
Strange place.
We'll be returning shortly after this full minute.